Well, good morning or good afternoon, good evening, whatever time you guys find yourself watching this. We're here at our home celebrating actually our 7th wedding anniversary. So we thought we'd pop on though and come on and share a little bit of our morning devotions with you this morning.
Hold on. Listen to that real quick. It's the sound of nothingness. So a quick shout out to Nana and Papa for taking the kiddos for a couple days for us so that we can have this time to celebrate.
That's right. I was going to say we were 2/3 kids free since we do have the little one with us, but still pretty silent, which is nice. So this morning we are coming to you from 1 Samuel 17, Psalm 9, and Matthew 2. Personally, I want to start with jumping into 1 Samuel 17 today. It is the story of David and Goliath, which many of us can sometimes just come to that story as a story that's a kid's story that we read to our kids and is in their kids' book. And personally, that our kids jump on the trampoline and like to play David and Goliath. Sometimes getting the story backwards. But the story starts with, or soon comes into David coming from tending his father's sheep, which is what he did on a pretty normal basis. And he comes to bring his brothers food as they are standing on the sidelines of the battlefield where Goliath, the giant from the Philistines, is challenging the Israelites to send a fighter to come out and fight him, and stating that whoever wins this battle, then the opposite army will become their servants. At this point, everyone is fearful. The Israelites doesn't want to come out. They're just marked by this overwhelming fear of this giant that seems impossible to conquer. But while David comes and brings the food to his brothers, he sees this giant and hears what he's saying. And so David inquires, okay, what's going on here? Why are we standing in fear and not believing that God's going to conquer this? And in the process of doing this, his brothers just look at him and I'm guessing probably laughing at him, belittle him and just presume that he's being childish and that he just wants a front seat to the battle. And we see this in verse 28 when they say, "I know your presumption and the evil of your heart, for you have come down to see the battle." And then even after this, the king, when David comes to the king, says that he will fight, he says, he can't believe because he is only a youth that David could fight this giant. But David knows, he stands firm and he knows who he fights for. And I want us to just really focus on that David knows who he fights for and who his strength comes from. He knows that it doesn't come from the weapons that all the other soldiers think that it comes from, but David knows that it comes from God. And he stands and he says to King Saul, he declares, "The Lord who delivered me from the paw of the lion and from the paw of the bear will deliver me from the hand of the Philistine." And you have to remember that David, he shepherded sheep. And so if he states earlier in this that if a lamb were to come, a lion were to come or a bear were to come, that David would fight that animal and he protect his sheep. And so he's saying here that, hey, look, God's helped me through all of these other circumstances. He's helped me fight these other seemingly giants. I know that he can help me fight this Philistine. So even though David stands against the giant with only a sling and stones because the king's armor is too heavy for him to wear and carry, he says, I'm not used to this. I'm not going to fight with this armor on. I know God will be my shield and I know he'll be my strength. But again, David's mocked because of his size and his youth. It's just time after time he's mocked because of that. And I read this, and as I was reading this, the Lord was just speaking to me and reminding me that isn't this the same thing that Satan does to us?
Right.
He looks at us and says, you're weak, you're insignificant. I can come at you with whatever I want and I can defeat you because you're just weak and you're small. But we can stand the same way that David did, and we can stand firm in confidence. Just as he did, whatever the battle that comes our way, whatever hardship comes our way, whether it's what's going on in our world right now or in the circumstances and situations that brings for us, or an illness, disease, just whatever hard situation that it is, that we can stand in confidence in that battle and say that this battle is the Lord's. It's not mine. It's not my family's. This battle is ultimately the Lord's. And He's already been victorious, as we just celebrated on Easter. He's already victorious. And he will and can be victorious in this battle. And it's not by our strength, but it's by the power of God. So I just think that was important for us to grasp today and this morning, as the Lord was speaking to me, that we can fight any battle with God's strength. And it doesn't matter what man says. It doesn't matter what man thinks, or what the enemy tries to tempt us with. We stand firm in Jesus.
Amen. Amen. Yeah, and as we moved into Psalm chapter 9, I was reading about the justice of God and just trusting in Him, because I've got this justice button, where if I see something that's not right, I just can't get my mind off of it, and I'm like, this is not okay. We need justice for this situation. And I was just reminded this morning that God's got it. It says in Psalm 9, 7 through 10, "But the Lord sits enthroned forever." That includes right now. "He has established His throne for justice. He judges the world with righteousness. He judges the people with uprightness. The Lord is a stronghold for the oppressed, and a stronghold in times of trouble. And those who know your name put their trust in you. For you, O Lord, have not forsaken those who seek you." And for me, it's just this fresh place of putting trust in God, that He has justice and He will get the justice because He's a God of justice. So if you find yourself where I sit this morning and just seeing the need for justice to take place, we lay it down to God and ask Him to take care of it, and we trust that He's going to. And then finally, we get to Matthew chapter 10, and we see that God's got a plan. Someone say, God's got a plan.
God's got a plan.
God's got a plan. Matthew 10 is, that's not right. It's not Matthew 10. It was like Matthew 2.
Matthew 1.
Was it Matthew 1?
2.
Matthew
Sorry,
2. Okay.
guys.
Matthew chapter 2. I'm like, that's a long way into the gospel for what we're going to be talking about. But so we see Jesus is born, and sometime after that we see the wise men following a star, and they come looking for Jesus, and they end up getting to Herod, and then Herod ends up trying to kill all the male children, and God tells Mary and Joseph to go to Egypt. Herod dies. God tells Mary and Jojo to go back to Israel, and then they end up in Nazareth of Galilee. That's kind of Matthew chapter 2 in a nutshell. And I was just thinking about this, and that as followers of Jesus, there's peace in knowing that God has a plan and that we get to be a part of it. And some of us get too caught up in the minutia, the minute details of that plan. But here's the big picture, which kind of brings me to peace. It's that our future is already written. It's already written, and our future is one of victory over death, victory over pain, victory over disease. We've already got something, all of this to look forward to. And not only that, we get the presence of God right here, right now, and forevermore. So this is incredible. As we have this to look forward to, we also have a mission for right now. And that mission is spreading the love and the power of Jesus everywhere that we go. And so that knowing the future kind of releases me to a peace right now. I can be just right now without anxieties, without stresses, and just trusting that God's got a plan and we are a part of it. So would you be in peace with that today? We love you. See ya.
Love you.